fan of Pensacola, even though I'm over here in Destin. We love to come over and just hang out for the weekend. So always love popping over there to see you guys. And I keep saying that I'm going to come to one of the YP events. So I just got to align my visit on the right day. So, and I actually spearhead the young professionals for the Destin Chamber of Commerce. So I'm all about connecting with people. I think that's what we live in generally small communities, especially us over here. So connecting with you guys is so valuable to me, and I'm excited to be here. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background about my personal brand first. So I'm going to share my screen and get this party started. Let's see. Oh, and while we're at it, I would love to know what you guys all do. What's your job title, or if you are looking for a new career, like what are you hoping to do? I always love to see kind of like what industry people are in, and that always gives me some cool insight to know about you guys. So share screen. There we go. And then present. All right, cool. Okay, here we go. Not that. Got it. So who is Whitney Lee? So I was born and raised in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, so not too far away. I grew up there, and my parents grew up there, grandparents grew up there, everybody's from Hattiesburg. So I got talked into moving to Destin with some friends. I went to the University of Southern Miss for undergrad, and I did speech communication, and I got talked into, hey, we're all moving to the beach. And that was actually 12 years ago this week. So I finished undergrad in 2008, and a group of my friends were all coming down here, and we need another roommate. So, and of course, 21-year-old Whitney was like, yeah, so here I am. So I moved over here, decided I wanted to get a master's degree, and found this cool program called Integrated Marketing Communication. And this was when, and this makes me sound old, but I'm not really that old. This was when marketing and social media were like all of a sudden starting to merge, and social media was really becoming a thing for business. So integrated marketing communications was a master's degree that kind of melded all of that together. So I just thought it was super interesting. So I literally last minute took the GRE, threw my application out to like 6 or 7 schools all over the Southeast. Florida State took me and waived my out-of-state tuition. And so there you go. So I packed up, moved to Tallahassee for a couple of years, well, kind of back and forth, and had to do an internship for my master's. So Emerald Grand, if anybody's aware of Emerald Grand, huge building right here by the Destin Bridge. It's funny, I live on the harbor, so I can above my computer, I can actually see Emerald Grand right there. So right by Crab Island, huge building. So they took me on as an intern. So it was our job to not only promote the hotel, but then also to promote the center down below, seafood festival, barbecue festival. We did a little bit of everything. After 2 years there, they kept me on after my internship. After 2 years there, I got a little bit of an upgrade and was the director of marketing for the Hilton Destin. And after 1 year there, I was miserable. So I don't know if anybody can identify with that, but it was very, I wanted that job. I prayed for that job. I went after that job, and they interviewed me 8 times, and I finally got the job. And it was incredibly corporate. I got to have no creativity. It was one of those things like, it's 8 a.m. Why aren't you in your desk yet? If it's 8:01, you're in trouble. And I was just so deflated by it. So I had people back from the harbor, some of those businesses that were saying, hey, I know you work at the Hilton now, but on the side, could you help us with just our Facebook page? This Instagram wasn't even a thing yet either. So take that. It seems like forever ago, right? So can you help us with our Facebook page on the side? Or could you help us with an event for a charity or things like that? And my little side hustle was kind of scratching my creative itch. And before long, the little side hustle made more money than the big corporate job. So I went to the Hilton and said, hey, I have this opportunity. I can't sit in this room with no windows for the rest of my life. And they asked me to stay and said, oh, we'll give you a raise. And I was like, I really just can't. So I offered them to become a client. So I actually kind of got to leave and take the job with me. And ever since then, once I was able to actually verbalize what I was doing and put myself out there and really start a personal brand, then all of a sudden it was crazy the amount of opportunities that came to me. And so that's kind of why I feel so passionate about personal branding. So I started consulting in 2013, but really started SocialLee in 2015. But yeah, and before long, I got so busy, I had to hire an assistant. And then she got so busy, I'm like, girl, we need to get you an assistant. So she got an assistant, and it's grown from there. So we represent all different kinds of businesses. I've had clients in Pensacola. We've stretched really from Orange Beach to Panama City Beach. It's kind of our little niche. But a good mixture, like he said, right now currently we have we represent the local orchestra. We represent numerous nonprofits, the local United Way, Shelter House. We have a fine dining restaurant, Bijou. We have a group of Italian restaurants. We have an escape room. We have a dental practice. We have a resort, the Island in Fort Walton Beach. So we have like a really cool mixture. So it's very interesting of, every day the voice for each one of those companies is very, very different, and so I always, tell myself we're speaking on behalf of these businesses. And then just a quick shout out for Get the Coast too, because I threw the logo on there. If anybody follows Get the Coast, again, this happened from my personal brand. I barely knew these guys, but I used to sub some website work out to them in Fort Walton. And they came to me and said, hey, Whitney, we're videographers and website developers, but we can't talk on camera. And we're trying to start this like BuzzFeed type of thing, where we want it to be local news. So if you guys know the Destin area, we don't even have our own news station. So we either watch your news or we watch Panama City news, depending on what side of town you live on. And I mean, for local news, that's really not super relevant for us all the time. Like what's happening in Panama City Beach, that's an hour and something away from me right now. So these guys kind of wanted to grow like a local media outlet, and they reached out to me because they were like, hey, we see you all the time on social media. We see you at events. We think that you would be a great spokesperson. Would you be our on-camera personality? And I had never even thought of myself that way. I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm going to look, my voice sounds weird. What if I screw up? On and on and on. But it's been absolutely insane. We started it 3 years ago, and then the first year it got 500,000 views. I ended up winning an award for being a show host, which is so crazy to me because at my core, I'm a marketing public relations person. So that's just kind of my personal testament to you guys about, when you create a personal brand and you put yourself out there, you never, ever know what's going to come to you. And when it does come to you, give it a chance because it might be something you really, really enjoy and might be something you're really good at. So, but enough about me. Let's talk about your personal brand. And today I kind of want to go through, I thought this would be fun, the steps that I take when I take on a new client. So I want to treat your personal brand just like I would treat a local business's brand. So the first thing that I'm going to say, I'm going to walk you guys through the same steps I do when someone gives me a call. So they give me a call, they say, Whitney, I'm interested in hiring you for my example is going to be a restaurant. I want to hire you to handle some marketing and public relations for my restaurant. Cool. So the first thing I do, I Google them. I think we all Google everything, right? So I Google them because I want to see what they've already put out there, right? So I look at of course, their social media pages are going to pop up if they have them. Hopefully they have them. So I look at those and I see what their posts say and what they're posting about and what the language looks like. And then next, I kind of go through if there's ever been an article, maybe the newspaper wrote a feature on them, or there's a YouTube video out there. I scour the internet, Google images, everything, just to get a feel of what this business is like, what they do, all of the above. So the next thing, I gather my thoughts on that first. I also look at reviews, obviously, because I want to hear what other people are saying about them. And then I ask them for a meeting in person because I want to ask them firsthand, who are you? And I always love to see how people describe themselves, right? What I saw online versus how they describe themselves. Sometimes it matches up, other times it is so vastly different. We'll talk about perception in a little while, and then I also kind of open my eyes to the business in general, like what I'm seeing inside their business. In a restaurant, I would look at the servers and see what they're wearing. I look at the type of napkins they use, the type of glassware they use, how the restaurant is set up, what the lighting is like, a little bit of everything, just to gather the whole vibe. And then I talk to them in general about the history of the restaurant, where they've been, how they got started. If anybody has any credentials, maybe their chef went to a big fancy, culinary school or something of that nature. And also what they offer. So, same thing for you guys, think a little bit about that. If you've never Googled yourself, I encourage you, the moment we're done with this, Google yourself, Google your name. Now, if you have a common name like Whitney Lee, there's a lot of Whitney Lees out there. So try Googling Whitney Lee Destin, or, your name, Pensacola, or your hometown, and see what comes up. Because it's very interesting. You might see, your flute recital from when you were 12 years old and your aunt put it on her blog or something, you know what I mean? Like, you never know. So I first want to encourage you to Google yourself, and B, I want you to think about who you are as a person, and as a person, as an individual, but also as a professional. So then I love giving them this test. I don't know if anybody out there watches Shark Tank. If you're a Shark Tank person, I'd love to know in the comments. For some reason, I can't see the comments anymore. Like, what did I do? So get in the comments if you're a Shark Tank person and tell me who you would choose. I always love to know. I am team Mark Cuban, big time. But the thing that Mark Cuban said that really stuck with me about businesses is you have to identify, are you the first? Are you best? Are you the best? Or are you different? So I ask every single client that, and I'm going to ask you that too right now. So this restaurant, are you the first Italian restaurant in town? Probably not. Are you the best Italian restaurant in town? Well, of course, we're all going to say we're the best, right? But so it always kind of comes down to how are you different? How are you different than Olive Garden? How are you different than every other Italian restaurant in town? I'm totally just randomly picking Italian restaurant. But how are you different? So personally, think about that right now. Like, are you the first in your industry to do something big? Are you the best? And if you are the best, there's no shame in that game. Trust me. If you are the best, how do you quantify that you're the best? What makes you the best? Are you the fastest? Are you the most efficient? Are you, I know everybody's from a different industry. So, are you the most creative? So what makes you the best, or what makes you different? When I first started my business, I sat down with a guy in town here that is a marketing and sales consultant, and he works with businesses all over the world. And like, he is like professional goals for me. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to get to where you are, but I'm like, that's where I want to be. So I asked for a meeting with this guy. I said, I'll buy you lunch. And he asked me this exact question. He said, Whitney, there are multiple people who do marketing, public relations consulting around this area. So how are you different from them? And I'll be honest with you, I was pretty stumped. So it took me a little while to kind of learn what my niche was versus what some of the other marketing and public relations people and what their niches were. I encourage you to put a little thought into what makes you different on a personal level and also on a professional level. When we were children growing up, we all used to spend our time just dying to fit in, right? What, to have the same outfit, to have the same hair, to have the whatever. But it's funny, the moment you become an adult, you want to be different. So I encourage you, like, whatever you are, whatever's different about you needs to be the thing that you put in the forefront of all your messaging, of all your posts. You need to take that and own it. Like, Madonna has a massive gap between her teeth and she owns it. She loves it. That's what makes her smile different and unique, where other people might, whatever they want to say about it, like, that is Madonna. So I have no idea why I just thought about Madonna, but that's what makes her different. And the next thing I do is I put together a huge list. I tried to get it on here, but it was just visually overwhelming. I have a huge list of adjectives. And I know this sounds super elementary, but I asked the business owner to circle or add in all the different adjectives that they would want people to say about their business. So I have, these are just a few of the words: upscale, modern, refined, kid-friendly, approachable, flexible, professional, friendly, knowledgeable. The ones on the right are more things that maybe you guys would want to be said for your personal brand. So I asked them to circle the adjectives that they want to be known for. And then I really look at the current brand that they have, the photos they're putting out there, the messaging that they're saying. And I ask myself, are these things aligning? Are they aligning? So I'll give you an example. We had a fine dining restaurant that would literally post things like, hey, y'all, come down and have a $5, it's happy hour, $5 wine. And I'm like, hey, y'all, come on down for wine, or whatever it was. Like, my head was spinning because they chose words like upscale, modern, and refined. And that definitely wasn't speaking to that. So once I have this list of adjectives, I always ask myself every time I go to share something on social media for them or plan an event for them, does this position them as upscale, modern, refined? And I encourage you to think about that for your personal brand. So some of the words that I chose for my personal brand was personable, friendly, prepared. I always want people to feel like I have, come with my best foot forward. Organized, same thing. I've got my ducks in a row. Educated, because I am, so hopefully I come off that way. Trustworthy, if they, give me the trust to handle something for their business or to speak on behalf of their business, that they can trust that I'm going to say something that represents the way they feel. Hardworking, if they're going to hire me, I want them to know that, like, I will do everything in my power to expose their business in a good way. Expose sounds bad, but to, drive business for them. So valuable, I want them to see me as valuable, as, working with my team is a valuable asset to their business, and an expert in my industry. So those are all things that I chose from the list for my personal brand. So I would love if you guys, afterwards, I'd love to send you the list. If you are interested, you hit me up on Instagram. You can follow me there. It's the Whitney Lee, and I'll shoot you the list of adjectives if you'd like to pick out some for yourself. And I know it sounds elementary, but it's a big part of really defining how to speak for yourself. And so once you decide your adjectives, right, you kind of got to go and bring it to life. So there's always two sides of this. You've got your digital assets. Of course, everybody thinks of a personal brand and they think about digital, right? But then you've also got what people see in person, just like I was talking about, like when I go into the restaurant and I've seen this online, but then I get into the restaurant and I see this. are those two things matching up? So for digital, it's going to be things like, what are you posting on social media, the language you're using, the voice you're using, always putting your best foot forward. So again, we go back to your first, best, and different, always highlighting those things. What type of photos are you using? I know it sounds crazy, but I have it when somebody tags me in something, I have to review the tag. So, I mean, it's not like I'd be anywhere weird, but at the same time, like, you never know what photos you end up in. So make sure you're managing that. And also for a business, obviously, you know, your reviews and what other people are saying about you. But on a personal level, I know you guys are going to talk LinkedIn, or you may have already, that was the first session. What are people saying about you in recommendations, you know? Because I do think those are really, really valuable. Of course, we can put out all the messaging we want about ourselves, but at the end of the day, and for businesses too, at the end of the day, what really matters is what other people are saying about you. And you walk this fine line of like, everyone says like you shouldn't care what other people think about you. And I do agree with that. But also, you've got to, I do care if people are saying that my business is valuable to them. I do care if people perceive that I'm working hard for them. So, because that's just my personal integrity, So now at the end of the day, if there's something trivial that is going on or whatever, don't care about those things. If it's not true or whatever the case may be, let that go. But the things that matter in life to me are things about my business and how people perceive my work ethic. So always kind of try to evaluate that. So, and also in person, some of this sounds trivial, but what do you wear? I had a friend who was getting out of the military and he was trying to become a real estate agent. And he actually hit up, and I don't know if any of you guys watch Bravo, he hit up Josh Altman, who's like one of the not Property Brothers, I can't think of it, but Josh Altman is one of the guys on the real estate shows, Millionaire Listing or something. So he hits up Josh Altman and he's like, hey, I would love to, I'm going to be in LA next week. I would love 10 minutes of your time. I'm a veteran and I'm trying to get my real estate license. And the guy said yes. So he shows up and Josh Altman was like, hey, nice to meet you. I've got 10 minutes. How can I help you? And and he was telling him like, hey, I'm trying to get launched, blah, blah, blah. And the guy was like, hey, so what's your goal? You want to sell those big $1 million homes in Florida? Well, you need to dress like it. No more t-shirts. You need to look on point. When somebody comes to an appointment with you, don't show up in a t-shirt and flip-flops. You show up in a suit. Like, you come to play. If you want to be $1 million agent, you need to look like $1 million agent. So I encourage, you to think about that when you're at work or at an event. So where you're seen, that can be at local events or that can be around town. Where are you seen, and does that align with those adjectives that you selected? The events you attend. This could actually be one that can kind of help you if you're wanting to get more involved in arts and culture and be known for that. Well, then you need to be attending more arts and culture events. You need to be going to the art shows and you need to be going to the symphony and things of that nature. So because you're going to connect with people there that are involved in that, right? And I always say birds of a feather flock together. So, if you want to be known for this, align with other people who are involved in that too. So personality and disposition, when someone meets you, are you happy? Are you excited? Are you friendly? Whatever you chose in that list, you've got to bring it to life. And, I know it's hard sometimes, especially, we haven't had a local event in so long, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but when we do go back to normal life and we have local events, I usually go to like 3 to 5 events a week. Yeah, it's a lot. And it does get exhausting. Trust me, I feel you. I know how hard that is. But, I would rather, if there's an event that you're just not feeling, or that day you're not feeling your best, I would almost say it's better to just go home than to come out and, be grumpy or be passive or, not want to speak to anybody. So, because people are watching how you treat people personally and professionally. Do you call them back? That's something that millennials and Gen Z, if we've got anybody in the crowd out there that's a Gen Zer, we we have the challenge. Okay, we all like to text message. I am so guilty of it too. But how do you treat people? When they call you, do you call them back or do you send them a text message? I'm totally guilty of this, so I'm calling myself out as well. But when someone reaches out to you, I always say the rule is however they communicate with you, you communicate with them. If they text you, text them back. If they email you, email them back. If they call you, call them back. Don't return a call with a text message. Because for some people, they see that as off-putting. So, and the biggest thing I'll preach about probably all day is giving your word to someone. I speak at a lot of universities and colleges to students that are getting out into the workforce. And I'm telling you, the number one question I get is like, what's the best advice you've ever received about business? Here it is. And it goes along with personal branding. When you tell someone you're going to be somewhere, when you tell someone you're going to serve on a committee with them, when you tell someone you're going to help at the check-in desk at PYP events, when you tell them something, you have got to come through on it. Because when you don't, it damages your personal brand. And like I said earlier, we're in small town USA, y'all. So it is easy to make a good reputation, and it's also easy to make one that's not as great, So when you give someone your word, show up. And I always say that you see people, whether someone's paying you for it or not, you see people's true colors when they're doing something and they're not getting paid for it, right? These committees and stuff like that. But it has, in my past, I don't want to say damaged, but changed the way I view certain people, because I was aligned with them in a group and they promised to do something or be somewhere. And every time they would cut out or they would not show up or whatever the case may be. And it was always some other excuse. But over time, it's the professional who cried wolf, I just learned to know that they were not trustworthy and that they weren't going to show up. So I think we can all agree that we all want to be perceived as trustworthy, dependable, and so that is my biggest word of advice today is, in person, professionally, in every way, if you give your word to someone, holy cow, come through on it. Or if something happens and you can't come through on it, just be honest and say, hey, I know I promised you this, but this happened and, I'm going to get it to you tomorrow, and then, but again, if the excuses come every single time, then you're still encountering a problem. Then you need to reevaluate what you're promising people. So a lot of people come to me and say, okay, Whitney, so I don't need a personal brand. Like, why do I need a personal brand? I'm an accountant. I don't care, I don't want to be an influencer. I have no, everybody automatically thinks personal brand and they think of like Instagram influencer. That's not what this is about, y'all. Or they say like, I don't really want to start trouble for myself on social media. So I always kind of try to manage that. But also I don't really care about being out there. Well, I guess my argument to that or my return comment on that would be like, look at what has brought me. I don't brag on myself on social media and all those things, but there's nothing wrong with putting yourself out there and saying, here's what I want. Here are the things that I love. Here are things that make me happy. Here's some knowledge that I know about my industry, because you never know. Like, look at what it has brought me. It brought me a business. It brought me an opportunity to host a show just by randomly putting myself out there. So I encourage you, that's a huge reason of why you need a personal brand. I also love this one. These are all the excuses I get. I'm not job searching, so why does it matter? You're right. Maybe you're not job searching, but maybe a global pandemic will come and you'll actually lose your job and you never saw it coming. I'm sure that just happened to a lot of people. And also, I will say someone might be searching for you. There might be some huge opportunity out there that someone is searching for someone like you. So I found a girl, I'd probably say maybe last year, I was looking for somebody in my business to specifically manage Instagram. And I got a lot of resumes, but they were all a little, they just weren't specific enough. Like I was really looking for somebody passionate about Instagram. So I actually ended up digging around on LinkedIn for like 2 hours and found like 3 people that talked a lot about social media. And I found one girl that her little mission statement said, passionate about content creation and social media, or on Facebook and Instagram. I'm like, boom. I reached out to her, said, hey, I don't know if you're looking for a new opportunity. And she said, actually, I am. She's like, how did you know that? I'm like, I didn't. So you never know, like, your personal brand can attract someone that might bring something to you that you weren't even looking for. She actually was looking for something and she hadn't put it out there yet, but you never know. So, and I just always encourage everyone, like, as a professional, you have to maintain your reputation online, especially one day if you want to grow into being a CEO or high up in the company. I mean, look at these CEOs now, y'all. They're Elon Musk, like, he's an inventor, and all of a sudden now he's a media icon because these CEOs are expected to speak up, and they also answer for a lot that happens in their personal life too. So you want to ensure that you are maintaining your online reputation. And also I say, in the marketing and PR world, I always try to encourage my clients for us to be proactive, right? We shouldn't be waiting on something to happen. We always need to be prepared in advance. And I say that about your personal brand too. Like, you have to control the narrative of who you are, because if not, people are going to assume things from what they see. Just like me, when I Googled the restaurant, I assume from what I see that they're this way or that they're that way, or that it's really, it's not so fancy. And then you show up in a t-shirt and you're in a fine dining restaurant, so I always want to say, like, you be proactive on the narrative of who you are, because at the end of the day, perception is reality. This is a pretty bad example, but I love this movie, Easy A. Did anybody see that? It was all about this girl and everyone was calling her a slut or whatever. And, but she really wasn't, but everyone said that. And so all of a sudden it became true. She hadn't done anything. She really hadn't. None of that was true. But all of a sudden the perception was that she was this way, and everyone in the whole school automatically assumed it, and it was real. The teachers thought it was real, everything. And the entire time it was an act. So maybe you can spin that in a positive way. Maybe you don't feel confident rubbing elbows with some of these CEOs and people, but when you put yourself out there and you show up confidently, perception is reality. And my whole life, I've been told that I was a confident person, but what was going on, when people would say that to me, I would literally laugh. I asked Emerald Grant, I was like, what made you guys hire me as an intern? Like, y'all had hundreds of applications. And she was like, well, you were just so confident. I was like, what? I was like totally sweating, freaking out. Like, 22-year-old Whitney had no idea what to say. It was literally like my first legit interview ever. She was like, I don't know, you just seem so confident that we just wanted you to be on our team. And I was like, wow. So, and over time, I kept having people tell me that, like, you're just a confident person. You're a confident person. And you know what ended up happening? Finally, I was like, you know what? I'm a confident person, because the perception of everyone all of a sudden became real to me, And I finally realized, like, there's nothing wrong with being a confident person. I should be confident. Everyone already thinks I am, right? So why don't I just own that? So that's a good positive example of how perception is reality. And I'll relate this to a business really quick. I'm sure we've all seen a brand new restaurant open in town. And everybody was excited to try the new restaurant. Everybody, like, it's slammed, you finally go, you experience it, and it's a flop maybe, right? And after that, it's like the business never rebounds, and so because the perception is when they first open, everybody's like, oh, I went and it was blah. I went and it was and so all of a sudden maybe you didn't even get to try the new restaurant yet, but your reality is like, everyone else said this, so it's probably blah. So I encourage you to own, your own reality, or create your own reality. And this is my favorite part. So I always tell people, they say, what are some things that I can do right now to level up my personal brand? So we're going to walk through these really quickly. And then I'm going to let you guys ask some questions. So, and I also want to address some of the questions, the first things you guys said too, whenever in the comments. So, leveling up your personal brand. So number one is focus on something. Decide who you are and be that. I saw on LinkedIn the other day, one of my friends, God bless her. You know how underneath you've got your name, and then underneath that you've got like a little tagline of like passionate marketing and PR professional or something like that. Her tagline literally said real estate agent, fashion mogul, Instagram influencer, real estate agent. It had like 15, HR professional, administrative assistant, public relations professional. I mean, it had like 12 titles in it. I was like, okay, wait a minute. There is no way you are an HR person, a real estate person, a fashion mogul. Like what? No, you can't be everything, y'all. So decide what you are. What do you want to be an expert for? Even when I started hosting the show, I came back, came back to myself personally. I was like, well, wow, is my personal brand like pivoting? Am I like this like media personality now? And at the end of the day, I was kind of like, no, I'm a marketing and public relations professional. That's the core of who I am, professionally. So decide what you are and be the best at that. Because you cannot be a real estate agent, an accountant, a fashion mogul. You can't be it all. So focus on that and put that foot forward always, especially with your first, best, and different. So number two is be positive. Ain't nobody got time for whining and complaining. And your personal social media accounts are not your platform to get on there and tell everyone how terrible your day was. I'm all about being honest and open, but at the same time, I always say everything you post either needs to educate, inspire, or entertain. And your negativity is not entertaining anybody. If anything, it's turning people away. So if you have an issue, talk with your best friends about it, or your spouse, or your parents, or someone else, a therapist, okay? Not on your social media brands, because no one wants to be involved with, friends with, working with someone who's a huge negative Nancy. That's kind of my personal soapbox. I can't do the negativity. Number three, I think this is massively important, especially with everything that we have seen over the past week, y'all. This is not a new presentation, but holy cow. Number three, take a side. Stand up for what you're passionate about, and the right people will stand with you. So obviously, unless you've been living under a rock, you're seeing what's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. So if that's something you're passionate about and you have a voice for it, stand up for it. Another example would be like Chick-fil-A is a huge, they don't believe in opening on Sundays, and they get, tons of terrible comments about it. They get beaten up. They also have had people come to them and say, hey, did you know that your business could make $50 million more every year if you would start opening on Sundays? But no, they are passionate about that. The Sunday is the Sabbath to them, and they want to take Sundays off for themselves and for the employees. And the people who, their avid following supports that. So another one was the Hobby Lobby movement. Hobby Lobby had this issue where they didn't want to provide, I can't remember exactly what it was. They didn't want to provide birth control underneath their health benefits. But the people who, who stood with them are their kind. So, if anything, that's, taking a stand for what you believe in will weed out all those other people who don't align with your beliefs anyway. And it'll only grow your following and your friendships and your connections with people who are in the right lane with you. So I encourage you to take a side. Now, let me just say for a quick moment, that doesn't mean you have to make a comment on every single issue, because Lord knows, like, you could be commenting on a different, like, tomorrow could be global warming, the next day could be gay rights, the next day could be women's equality. And I mean, like, so just keep in mind, pick the ones that you're truly passionate about and advocate for those things. And number 4 is just keep it real, be authentic. We live in a world of social media and reality TV where people expect real, right? They don't want fake. And if they see something online and then they see you in person and those things don't align, there's an immediate distrust there. So I always, when I speak to groups, when I speak on my social media, I always try to 100% be Whitney. I don't put on my fake voice, although, I've always been teased about my voice, like being monotone. Whatever, like, this is me. Like, I'm talking to you. If I met you tomorrow, this is exactly what I would look like. This is what I would sound like. And this is how I would act if I saw you in person. So put yourself out there and you'll really earn respect. And I'll say this for all the ladies out there. I used to say, like, I don't want to post on my Instagram stories if I don't have makeup on, like I look like a wreck, those kind of things. It's a balance, like, part of me is like, I was always taught to put your best foot forward, and me busted just rolling out of bed, like sweaty, stanky after the gym probably isn't my best foot forward. But at the same time, it's real, So I think there's this good balance of, like, showing people the real you. Who cares if you see me without makeup on? Who cares if my hair looks busted? Like, that is real life. And I know, people will always respect a personal brand that is you. So you are always in control of the reality that you bring to your personal brand. So, and this is my favorite quote of all time. The only thing you have to prove to anyone is yourself. The only person you have to prove anything to is yourself. So remember that, while it is important what we put out there for our personal brands, at the end of the day, like, if you are representing you. You're the client. It's a beautiful thing. You control what goes out there, the voice you have, and what people see of you. So, make sure it's something that you're proud of. Back in the day, we used to say, oh, I'm terrified my parents are going to see what's on social media. Well, now it's kind of flip-flopping. As we, like, progress in our lives, think about it this way. Your children are going to see what you're putting out there. So we all want to be proud of our personal brands. So I encourage you to think back to that. What are you proving to yourself? So I would love to, let me share my screen so I can actually see you guys now. How do I do this? What have I done?
Go to the top.
Here we go. My little bar had disappeared. Stop share. Oh, thank you, Emily. She said she loves my nails. Okay, I want to go up really quick and see. Okay. Okay, cool. So does anybody have a specific question? I was gonna answer any questions.
Any questions, guys? While you're thinking of questions, I'm going to drop in the survey for today's webinar that you can give us your quick feedback. It's 3 simple questions, and it's in the chat right now. So please take that if you can, but I'm going to give it a second for any questions that anybody may have. You may be typing it up.
Wendy asked how often to post on your business pages. So I would say this, how much good content can you put together? So I wouldn't, some people are like, I have to post twice a day. I have to. If you're not putting together good, engaging content, make it once a day. Or if you can't even pull out good content for that, that's cool. Do it every other day. But social media has a momentum factor to it. So once you, like, let's say you post something and you're in commercial real estate, so like a super awesome, beautiful renovated bank building or something cool, and it gets a ton of comments and shares and likes, your page is on a high. So if you post something after that, or when you post something after that, organically that next post is already going to get more visibility. So ride that wave, like if you post junk after that, then you're digging yourself back down into a hole. So, I have some businesses that we post daily for them. Anything over twice a day is probably a little bit aggressive. But daily, if you can pull off once a day and it's good, engaging content that entertains, engages, or inspires, then I would say try to do once a day and be consistent with it. Rachel said, if you have multiple niches and skill sets, how do you portray that in a personal brand? So sometimes I kind of get into the same realm too, because I'm like, for those of you who don't know, like PR people and media people, like that is two different teams. Like, in fact, PR people, like we're usually the ones pitching to the media people. So now it's kind of interesting. Like I wear both hats. Like I'm a PR person, but then I'm also kind of a media person. So I just try to take it back to, I found the commonality between those two, and that's storytelling, right? So in one way, I'm storytelling on a media platform, and in another way, I am storytelling for brands. So that was the commonality that I found. So Rachel, maybe if there is a way that you can find a commonality between those two, that can be your message. But also, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a couple of things that you are doing. So maybe I'm a PR person, but on the side, I'm really passionate about the arts. And so I post about, storytelling for, fine arts education or something like that. So I don't think there's wrong with having a few little niches, but just don't get into the LinkedIn status lady I was telling y'all about. Like I literally burst out laughing and almost screenshot it, but then I was afraid somebody might know her, and that's totally off kilter. But just don't go into that realm. Let's see. Brandy says, do you ever feel as if you can't be yourself because you have such a public facing position, specifically with those in C-suites or higher leadership roles, and how did you overcome that? That is a tough one. I honestly, I guess I've never really felt weird about being myself. I am a very like blunt and outspoken person in general. So I have had to learn to think before I speak a little bit, which has gotten better with age. But yes, I do think that you can be yourself, but I always just double check before sharing something, before attending something. Really evaluate, like, is this going back to my adjectives? Does this position me as an expert in public relations, or in those types of ways? So I guess it's just, overcoming that. The biggest thing I've had to do is really kind of slow down, and I'm used to being in PR and working so quickly and this and that and this and that, but I've had to stop and really put a lot of thought into how I want to be perceived. And before I put something out there. But for the most part, I still feel like I can be myself. I don't have to be this like, and especially as millennials and Gen Zs come up in the ranks, millennials, some of the oldest millennials are 38 right now, so like we're getting to where we're in powerful positions. I still feel like I can be myself, and I the way I look at it is like, this is the real me. I don't, I still have to censor myself occasionally. I think we all do. Brooke says, I advise a group of collegiate women ages 18 through 22. Though they don't have a business or a professional job yet, how can I encourage them to see the importance of building their personal brand now? I think it's setting them up for, you know, and I understand, Brooke, because I speak to a lot of college students too. So I think it's all about being prepared and, you know, going into the game. And I try to tell them before they graduate, you know, set themselves up for success now. But I'd go through the adjective test with them. I know that sounds like the most, and most of my clients kind of roll my eyes when I bring this up. They're like, really? But, you know, they have to be aligned with those adjectives. And I guess I went through that too when we were in college. Like Facebook started, let's see, I'm 33. So Facebook started my senior year of high school. So college was when all of a sudden, like this whole, I was tagged in this photo and I was here and everybody knows it kind of thing. And I think that they grew up with that. Like they don't know life without that. But I think that they need to realize, the good thing is that Generation Z is so obsessed with supporting what they feel passionate about and working in industries of things that for causes and things that they feel passionately about, that I would encourage them to make their social media about that and less about, you know, floating on a unicorn float or going to a music fest. Let's see. And Emily, that's awesome about the performing arts studio for kids and teens. That's so awesome. And you can crush that on social media. Like people will eat that up. Well, cool. I mean, if anybody has any other questions, pop them in there. Also, just a reminder, if you think of something later, you can hit me up on Instagram. It's just the Whitney Lee. So, and I totally want to come to one of your things. If you guys do an in-person meeting this fall, I will put it on my calendar and make sure I come over for that.
Awesome. We would love to have you at it. And again, thank you, Whitney, for doing such a killer, awesome job today of going over your personal brand to everyone who attended. And again, I just want to remind everyone, the survey I posted in the comment box, it should be there. I'll post it again real quick. It is 3 simple questions. Just give us your quick feedback. And again, make sure you tune in for next week with Brandy Gomez. She's actually on here right now. And she is a communication strategist with Navy Federal Credit Union. And she's going to be teaching us all about how to work LinkedIn, because let's face it, LinkedIn is a minefield of an app, and we all need to learn how to best utilize it. But again, thank you, Whitney Lee, for teaching us about your personal brand. And we'll have this presentation available on our website. So thank you, everyone. And y'all have a wonderful week.
See ya. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Whitney. See you later.